oh, we're just getting started. I'm like, I have to record tomorrow.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm leaving today. I'm leaving like right now. And they're like, no, stay a little bit. I'm like, I'm leaving right now.
Exactly.
And I was literally walking out there like, I don't care if they freaking hate me for leaving. I feel good right now. I'm happy about my choices.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Breakup.
Starting Christian Vieira.
And Marvin Schultz, or like Logan Paul says it, the number one relationship advice podcast in the world.
That's us.
Thank you for watching on YouTube if you're listening to us on Spotify and iTunes. Thank you again for the support. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to YouTube channel, ring that notification bell so you're up to date with all of our content on YouTube.
YouTube, TikTok, Facebook.
Social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We have our website.
Coffeebreakup.com. Check us out.
Yes. But once again, like the video, subscribe, and ring that
Subscribe.
please. And share this video with a friend. Comment, do all the good stuff.
All that stuff.
So another episode, another special guest.
we got a good guest today. I'm excited.
We do have a great guest.
We have Ingrid Hernandez. Did I say that right? Perfect.
Yeah, he's terrible with names. So
I'm awful, but I got yours. It's
you did.
A very easy name. So
yeah, is it
Hernandez? Ingrid.
That's true. That's true.
Ingrid. That's easy. How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the weekend.
Yes.
It is the weekend.
And we're here.
Well, by the time this thing freaking goes out.
Oh, fuck it.
Anyways, so Ingrid, you are in the kind of a field, the niche that we really like to discuss and talk about. And I think it's vital that you're here because, it's the kind of conversations and information that we want to give to the audience. So that being said, please introduce yourself.
Take it away. Just give people like a little bit of yourself, who you are, what you do. And so just people can have an idea of who you are.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you.
We're honored.
Yeah. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. And I do sessions via teletherapy. So I actually started my business Therapeutic during the pandemic, August 2020. Almost as a result of the pandemic, I really saw the need and the spike in mental health services. So I decided to build this platform where I can see people from the comfort of their safe space, whatever that may mean. So all the sessions are via Zoom. I did understand in the beginning there was a little bit of pushback and hesitancy because we were so used to driving through a therapist's office, doing face-to-face. And I love that as well. I love being able to see somebody's body language, but just the convenience of it, being able to just expand how many people I can reach all throughout the state of Florida versus being limited to those who can reach my office. So I really love that aspect and being able to see people from Orlando, Tampa, Tallahassee, Key West, maybe that don't have access, or maybe people that are limited to their homes, because they don't have cars or other limitations. So it's been amazing. I am so happy to do what I do. I'm truly passionate about just helping other people. And I fell in love with your podcast, kind of listening to it. And I really like the vibe. So my clients know that I like to be open. I like to be true to myself, and the same visibility that I want to give them is what I expect in return, So I'm real. I call them out. I got to do what I got to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, it's almost like when we say that, well, if you can approach a relationship, with vulnerability and in essence as yourself, and you would hope that you would get that sort of reciprocation, because at least you're kind of setting the standard, or at least the expectation of like, hey, this is what we got to talk about.
This is,
So it's pretty cool. I like that you have that approach. I wanted to ask you, did you ever have like start with the location, like a physical location, or you went straight into the virtual world?
Yeah, so I worked in community mental health centers. I've been in the mental health business for 8 years. And initially, I have seen people in various practices and face-to-face and in treatment centers and rehab, just all of the different jobs that I've had. So the connection was amazing. But again, also nothing beats, comfort and space and being able to reach people that way. So I've seen the difference, but also I've seen how much more accessible it is for people to reach me, if they need childcare or if they just... who wants to drive, maybe an hour to see a therapist after you've worked for 8 hours in a day?
That's true because, I go to therapy and it started pre-COVID and it was in person in Miami Lakes. And, that's a little bit of a drive and stuff like that. I enjoyed being there, but that commute back and forth with traffic, and then you got to carve out time between work and in between and all that stuff. So it could be a little bit tedious and a little bit, takes a little bit of planning. So now I do the same thing over the phone. I don't think it's the same experience. Like, it's not the same, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean it's worse or whatever, but it's just, it's convenient. So I could schedule more appointments. So instead of going maybe once a month, I'm able to do three times a month, maybe, perhaps.
Right.
Just because I miss out on that commute. But it is. I'm looking forward to going back in person. At least once in a while. It'll be good to see my therapist face to face instead of like a screen.
But I think it's a great alternative for those who maybe have never gone to therapy.
Yes.
Ease in.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, but again, more you, but also you from
Sure. Who cares what I think? You want to get
no, because you're on the patient side.
Yeah,
and she's
okay.
as the professional side.
I like that.
Always taking things so seriously.
No, but go ahead.
Now I wanted to ask you, do you feel like a lot of the customers that you've been getting, a lot of the clients that you've been getting, is it like their first time ever going to therapy? Or do you feel like it's been a transition from people who have gone in person and now they're adopting like the virtual side?
It's a mix. Sometimes, people find me all sorts of ways. So sometimes they had a therapist, maybe they moved or out of state, or, they can no longer see that therapist, or maybe they had a bad experience, any sort of thing that may happen. I can definitely see the benefit of doing in person, but also, like you said, like virtual just opens up the doors for people that, have anxiety, like don't want to go into an office, don't want people to see them.
What are they going to think of me if they see me? Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so much, like there's people that are timid. There are so many things that can happen that can prevent someone from taking that first step versus like, hey, I'm home, I can sit on my couch and I can talk to someone. And I like to be really laid back and chill and like, look, I'm not going to like bombard you with questions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Like, I'm just here to listen to you. This is your space. I just want to create something that is safe for you, where you're not going to be biased, where I'm not going to, go into what you should and shouldn't be doing. So just somewhere where you can laugh, cry, curse, do whatever it is that you need to do.
Have you found that people are I guess since you have had experience in person as well, do you feel like that people are more receptive to doing it virtually rather than in person, or at least like the feedback that you're getting like while you're actually doing your I guess counseling?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a lot smoother for them to open up virtually versus how it was in person, or you're still trying to like figure that?
So there are some techniques that you have to put in,
Right.
you have to like really make your personality shine, look at people in the eye, even through Zoom, create a space where it's comfortable for them. I used to have like a couch behind me so they could see something and kind of see a little bit of my office. So in creating that relationship, it takes a little bit more as far as rapport. And a lot of like articles that I've read also say that it might take somebody a little bit more time to get comfortable with you because there's that distance, right? That physical distance. But I mean, so far I've heard so many great things from people saying, that I'm so glad that I was able to see you. I wouldn't otherwise. And in the future, I would like to have a practice and kind of do a hybrid model so I can see people both in person and virtually. But right when I was thinking about that, we had another surge of Omicron. So I was like, let's put that off for a while.
Yeah. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Before we continue, we just want to say thank you for supporting us, and we hope you enjoyed the show so far.
As you know, we're growing like crazy, so we want to give you guys more content, but we're very limited on what it is that we can put on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff. We got to battle their algorithm. So we do want to move a lot of over our content to Patreon, where we have more control to really interact with you guys and give you guys what it is that you want. So moving forward, the audio full episodes will still be available on Spotify and iTunes, but we are going to be changing things up when it comes to the video to put it on Patreon. Now, stick around to the end of the episode where we'll talk a little bit more about Patreon. You can see what it is that we're doing, but we have full control to really interact with you guys and give you guys what it is that you want. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. That being said,
enjoy the show.
Peace. Man, that's so cool.
That is awesome. So, I'm happy for you, and thank you for all that you're doing. I'm sure it's rewarding. I'm curious though that your clients, patients, their demographics. Is there something that you see, like a pattern? Do you have more women? Do you have more couples?
More so, and that as well as how do you get your clients as well? So how do you kind of...
Yeah, so people find me all sorts of ways. I have a profile on Psychology Today, which is like a directory for therapists.
I clicked on your link tree today.
Awesome. I also have my website. A lot of people come through that, therapytalkflorida.com, which I'm really, really proud of. And so people just kind of read my bio, see what I'm about. I would say my niche is trauma because that's what I've taken most like certificates and specializations in. But I mean, people come for all sorts of things, depression, anxiety, breakups. I don't have much experience with couples, but inevitably seeing one person, I'm also treating the couple because I'm teaching them. Yeah, I'm teaching them communication skills. They're going to vent about what's going on in their relationship. True. Although I'm not, I have at sometimes, brought in a partner and said, hey, let's do a session together. And you get a lot of feedback from the partner. So that's cool.
No, I'm thinking because ultimately relationships, we say it again also, it starts with yourself, and a lot of things that happen that you feel is an internal battle with yourself. Maybe it's a cause, not so much of the partner, but because of situations that are occurring in the relationship. Right. So So whether it not be, you know, direct couples counseling, I'm sure there's still couples situations that are causing the traumas that you have to deal with.
Right.
Right.
You said you've been in your field for a couple of years now. Do you feel like now it's more accessible, not even accessible, but more acceptable for people to seek counseling, to seek help, especially with COVID and everything that's going on? How do you feel where the times that we're in right now and the times we're moving forward, it's more acceptable, it's more talked about, especially for men from all over? Do you feel like we're heading in the right direction when it comes to mental health and therapy?
I think so, and I hope so. I think as therapists, we're all like stigma fighters, you know? We want to decrease the stigma. We want it to not be this like hush-hush thing that we don't talk about. I mean, myself, coming from a Hispanic family, you don't air out your problems to other people. You know, you don't talk about that. And I bring that up in sessions. I'm like, what is your experience like as a African-American male talking to a Hispanic therapist about all the stuff that's going on with you? Like, what would your family say about this? What do you think maybe prevented you from seeking help before? And a lot of people are like, yeah, no, we don't talk about this at home, or my parents may not even know that I'm in therapy, or, you know, it's not something that I really grew up with people being receptive about. So I do see change in that direction. And it's amazing to see, you know, I think cultural competency courses and things like that, like in my grad program that we had, so that we are better able to understand people and bring that up and say, you know, because your background is different, this kind of shaped the way that you are. And inevitably you might be hesitant to me. Another big example is like, I have a suicide screening question in my first intake because I got to make sure that people are safe. But you don't say, are you suicidal, to maybe someone that's Hispanic, because they're going to be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the wrong place.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to like talk to the person and how to bring those things up, even though they're difficult, and say, yeah, I understand you. You know, this isn't easy. What you're doing takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, and like the pushback of people maybe not even wanting to accept, just like you were saying, like, no, I'm not so, well, probably not, you know, not everybody would be, but, oh no, I would never do that, or that's never happened to me. No, I'm stronger than that. Like, I think that us as human beings, we all have similar ways of handling certain things. I think it's just whether we choose to voice whether we are dealing with it or not. And I think that's where the stigma comes, because as the example you were saying, like, oh, like my family doesn't even know that I'm in therapy. Why? Like, why does therapy have such a bad look that we can't comfortably, freely seek help when almost everyone feels like, man, I feel like I could use someone to talk to, but who? Oh, my friend. But they don't know. But if you go to therapy, it's wrong. Yeah, that's what it's very frustrating. Do you like, what can change? Like, what do you think that other than what you had just said? Like, what are things that you think can happen for people to be more open minded about actually going to therapy?
I think doing things like this and exploring and talking about it, keeping the conversation
awareness.
Going. Yeah, awareness, definitely. Having, you know, I've sat with friends and they'll be like, oh yeah, because, you know, my therapist said, like, therapists have therapists too. So I'll bring up, oh yeah, when I was in therapy, I talked about this and all these things, and you share your grows and your learns, the things that you have, you know, explored that have been better for you, that have worked. And that goes a really long way, because it keeps the conversation. Okay, well, you know, I don't think Ingrid's crazy, but she went to a therapist.
Right,
you know?
right. That's true.
That is, and it's also the fact that people, you know, when you tell them, hey, I go to therapy, the first instinct, okay, what's wrong?
Yeah.
They assume just because you go to therapy,
you're crazy.
Yeah, there's something going on. Sometimes I go to therapy, even in this day, where it's like, I just want to share my triumphs, how things are going good. When I talk about my relationship, it might not be something going wrong. I just want to share what's going on in my life.
But that's also important about your life, in order for you as a professional to say, well, now I can kind of see the excitement of how happy you are with good positive things.
Yes.
How can that, like, where is the negative side? Like, whenever you're venting about the bad stuff, maybe there's some sort of tie between those two. Do you feel like you've ever had those?
Yeah, definitely. I bring that up all the time.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm like, okay, well, work is going great, you know, but at home, not so much. What are the skills? What are the things that you're doing at work that you can bring at home? Because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, if you have good relationships at work, you're doing some things for people to like you. Now, what are you not doing at home, or what is missing, or what could be different? Like implementing those same things. Okay, that typically in our life, everything doesn't go wrong at the same time, except for when it does, but except for when it seems like it does.
Yeah.
So you'll find those areas, like, what are your strengths? What are you really good at? Okay, you're really good at listening. So how can you practice some of that? Let's talk about this skill. What is, you know, active listening? What does that look like? How could you use that with your wife maybe?
Yeah, that is true. I like that. I was gonna say, so yeah, like we've talked about how, you know, especially mental health, it all starts with yourself. And if your mind is not in a good place, it affects everything else. And so especially when we talk about romantic relationships, you have to make sure that you're in the right place. And if you can't be with somebody else if you're not, at peace within yourself. So I think that mental health aspect is so important when it comes to yourself and romantic relationships as a whole. And I think it's vital that we take care of ourselves and our minds. And, we go to the gym, we work out, we eat right. But a lot of times people neglect what it's, I would say even maybe more important, that is your mental health. And it's so important to kind of prioritize that.
I concur. What are some of the challenges that you've seen from maybe some of your clients or patients?
Clients, I say.
Clients, okay. Clients.
So patients is more in like a medical. So I've worked in different areas where they are patients, but in my private practice, it's just clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's important to know.
Differentiate.
I'm glad you asked.
Absolutely. What are some of the challenges that I guess you've faced with some clients directly when it comes to like I guess the whole what's the word session? You guys, gotta help me because you've never been.
You mean like
when you sit down?
The session.
What are some of the challenges that you've probably seen? Maybe that's common across the board with a lot of the clients that you see.
So, in the beginning, I think with any relationship, there's that like little holding back. Like, I don't want to say too much. And then there's the complete opposite where people say way too much and then they spill everything. And then they're like, oh my God, I realize I have many more problems than I thought I did. So one or the other. But I do see, a little bit of pushback, especially in like young. So I treat or I see kind of clients 20s to their 40s, maybe up in the 50s and 60s. But my demographic is more like young adults. And I really love working with young adults because they're in such a pivotal time in their life where so many things are changing,
especially
coming
now,
at them.
Yes.
With how life is now.
Exactly. So I love that. I love being able to see the transition. But to go back to your question, just a little bit of pushback, just a little bit of like, building that rapport and like, all right, let me see if I can trust her. Like, what is she going to say? How is she going to react if I say this? And then in us therapists, we have kind of a term that's called doorknob comments. So it's like right at the end of the session when you have like one more minute and they spill this big bomb and you're like, I don't have any time to process this. Why are you going to tell me this at this time? And that's kind of, we do that because we've been holding on to it. But whatever comes out, it means that definitely had to at that time. It's coming out for a reason. Yeah. And definitely we're like, you know what? We really got to talk about this, but we have to have enough time. So let's put a sticky note on this and we'll definitely get back to this when we have enough time. Yeah,
it almost seems like, running out of time. I'm not going to see her for a while. Let me unload everything now. So that way I can hide. It's almost like when you send a text to your crush.
And then you just drop it
throw your phone
and run away.
You throw the phone, you hide. It's like kind of like that, right? Where they just like kind of want to get rid of it really quick.
Yes, they just want to drop that and leave it there. And it's like, okay, I'll hold you. I really love the metaphor. And a lot of my clients, I tell, you have a book bag full of bricks. And here I'm building some castle. So you come bring me your bricks and you leave them here. Don't take them back with you after you leave. You unload, you do what you got to do, leave it here. I'm going to build a really nice castle. And then your backpack's going to be lighter. And then you pick up another brick along the way, bring it over here. Let's talk about it. Let's process it. So it's much more broken down into pieces.
I like that. Unburdening everything and then leaving it there. And it's you need it. Man, life is going to be so hectic and things could really scar you and affect you. So it's hard. And then you like you were saying, it takes a while to get comfortable. And then all your years, you probably had to hold in all that pain and hurt and frustration and disappointment. And then you just expect it to sit down for an hour, 45 minutes or whatever, and just kind of spill everything. It's hard and it takes a little bit. I remember my first session, I was like, it's kind of similar to a chair like this. And I was like, man, what am I going to tell this lady? Like, she was a little bit older than me.
Because you don't know her.
I don't know anything about it. I just know her name and my insurance pays for it. So
but there's a little bit of comfort. But there's also a little bit of comfort, being able to talk to someone that you don't know. Because there's less possible judgment or bias getting, feedback.
Exactly.
And it was also like she's been in the industry for a while, or in the field, I should say. And it's like, whatever I say, I'm sure she's heard worse. So it's like, okay, I'm fine.
She can handle it.
Yeah, because I'm sure she's heard other crazy stuff. So I can probably be just a little bit additional to that.
Speaking of stuff like that, how long have you been practicing for?
So I've been in the mental health field, for 8 years. I've been seeing clients in a therapy kind of way for about 4 or 5 years.
Are you seeing someone in a relationship? Are you single?
Yeah, I'm married.
You're married. Beautiful. Awesome. Do you feel that any of the probably the sessions we're calling them? Okay, that the time that you spend with your clients. Do you ever have anything that you think that when you take it home, do you Are there things that you take home, or maybe that are so impactful that you feel like maybe during your tenure has translated into your relationship, positive and negative, obstacles?
Yeah. So I typically don't share a whole lot about my relationship or my life at all with my clients, just because, I mean, the time is theirs. You know, they're there to unload. They're there to talk about themselves. So many of my clients, many don't even know about my relationship status. It's just not something that we discuss. Some sessions are much more difficult than others. So we as therapists have to practice a lot of self-care, kind of know our boundaries, take really good care of ourselves, and have really understanding partners that, you know, we can't discuss with them what happened in a session. So we're just like, I've had a long day. Okay, cool. What are we going to do? You know, how can we work through this together? Do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to make dinner? Kind of like something to transition you out of that. And because I work from home, it could be especially difficult because it's almost like you don't leave. You know, when you have an office, you close the door and you get out and that's it. You don't have
everything is in
out
the
of sight,
office.
out of mind.
Sure.
Right.
In this case, that's your home.
Exactly.
I'm trying to, but you couldn't you tell him about this? Just switch the names or to send like. Would he like? Are you not allowed to at all? Like, because how is he gonna know what you're talking about?
I have to respect my client's confidentiality. That's really my vow to them.
Okay.
So even changing names, I mean, anything that is identifying could be seen as like a potential breach. And also, it's not helpful to. I mean, I have other outlets where I can discuss some of my
that was
so like
my
consultation groups with other
because you have-
therapists.
okay.
You have to process that
because
stuff.
you're gonna just implode.
Exactly.
Taking in all that trauma, and if you don't share, like release it in some form and method. So might not be your husband, but it sounds like it's somebody else.
Yeah,
so
no, I have a really good group of girlfriends, and we all went to college together. We're all therapists. So whenever we need, you know, we'll be like, can we have a session? Like, can we all meet up? Or we text, okay, this happened to me. And we don't share any identifying information. Just like, what do you do in this situation? Or, you know, the client didn't pay me. Like, how do you navigate that? I mean, there's so many areas of like being a therapist and also a business owner that you don't really think about before you go into it.
True, it's important because you're at the end of the day, you're still running a business. Like, you're helping other people, but it's like, not a charity either.
Right.
So I mean, just to be blunt, right? So that is true.
No, I was thinking more because it's like I could just imagine maybe some of the topics or maybe conversations or discussions that you have with your clients, if anything has been so impactful that maybe has reshaped the way that you probably see your own relationship. Like, has anything ever happened that maybe when you were speaking with the client that then you got home and then you said like Mike Tyson, then you said, oh, well, you know, maybe this has occurred like with my husband, or maybe this is now changing my way of thinking. Let me now apply it to my relationship. Or negatively, where it's like, well, this happened to me, it impacted me so much that now maybe your husband's like, hey, like, what happened? Has that ever occurred to you that something is that impactful during your tenure?
Yeah, well, you know, we're human at the end of the day. And as much as we want to say it's like a switch and we can flip it, we can't. There are things that are going to affect us in different ways. It goes back to really just having boundaries and saying, okay, I'm here for a purpose. You know, I'm here to help the client. I'm not here to put myself in their shoes necessarily because their situation is not mine. I'm holding their hand along the way. And at some point I have to let go of that hand and empower them so they can take care of it, you know? So I try to steer away from that. And kind of when I see those negative thoughts happening, you know, do some restructuring and kind of reframing and saying, you know what, this is not something that I can take home. This is not going to benefit them. This is just going to make things worse. And it's also going to agonize me. I don't want to bring this into my relationship. My husband has no idea what's going on. And he's going to be like, what kind of day did you have? So just really trying to separate. I mean, it's difficult sometimes, but over time, you kind of just focus on the client, on like what's going on with them. And really what helps me sleep at night is knowing I did the best that I could when I had that time with them. Outside of that, I'm not really in control, whether they change or whether they don't, whether they implement the goals that we said, or, you know, work on their objectives or meditate or journal or do all the things they said they were going to do. That's on them. It's not on me.
Do you sometimes give, I'm sure there's times where you give, you know, your advice and your feedback and you know, your input, and then you have people come back and they did the opposite.
With it.
Yeah, they did the opposite. Does it get frustrating, or are you trained enough to the point where
it's expected already?
Yeah, it's part of the job.
Like,
out of that hand.
You're laughing, so something must have happened.
So we give, there's a term for it, and it escaped my mind, but it's just like,
it'll come back.
Just positive regard, like no matter what, because however that person's making me feel, they're probably making other people in their life feel that way. So if I respond to them and I project some of my own stuff onto them, That's not going to be nice. Like, this is their space. This is a space where it's accepted. And it's like, hey, you know what? Dust yourself off. What are you going to do? And make them responsible for it, because it's not, it doesn't tie into me or my worth or my expertise. I tell them, it doesn't matter how many books I've read, how many degrees I have. It's about the connection that we're able to have. And if we kind of have a break in that connection, then they're not going to trust me as much. They're going to be like, oh, well, now she's judging me because I didn't do the thing that she said she's going to do. But I also hold people accountable. So I got to call them out on their shit too.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to like, how do you then like kind of redirect them? Because I can see that frustration where, like, for example, my New Year's resolution, one of them was to read books. Ask me how many I've read this year.
We're
Zero.
only in February.
Zero.
Yeah, the year started.
We're getting closer to March. We're halfway through February.
Yeah, and then, okay.
Not a book has even been touched by these fingers. Okay. So then I'm thinking now as a client, if they say, oh no, because ultimately there's probably a reason why they didn't do it. You're coming for me for help, and I want to give you that. I want to provide that for you, but now you're not doing the work. So then how do you then keep them accountable? And I'm kind of even using this question as for people in general. Like, if they're finding things that they don't want to do, how do you kind of hold them accountable?
Yeah. So I really like to ask, what are the challenges or the barriers that are getting in the way of doing this thing? Or really calling them out and said, hey, you really said that you wanted to be in therapy, but I find that it's difficult for you to come. I'm seeing some no-shows. What's going on? What can we do together? Or what's keeping you from it?
What's happening?
Exactly. What are the barriers? And then saying, well, what can you do? What's one thing that you can implement to reach that goal? And truly, like, what are you doing today that's supporting the person, the you that you want to be in the future? Because you could say you have this dream. Okay, well, yeah, I want to be a millionaire. What are you doing today? What is the one thing because when we see a ladder, it's like there's so many steps. It's impossible to get there, but you just have to focus on the one right in front of you. That's all you have to focus on.
Remember the video? I think I sent you the video of the guy with the book that's like the horse, the mole, and the cow, whatever the figure was. But it was a story of like, oh, I can't see forward, like it's too dark. And then he asked, well, what can you see? Can you see the next step in front of you? And he goes, well, yeah, I can see that. And he goes, then just take that.
I like that.
Just one. And the same thing with like the whole brick thing that you were saying. Like maybe some clients who come in and they unload a bunch of bricks, but sometimes they're like, well, I can't. I'm not comfortable yet. So here's one.
One brick.
Yeah. Let me think like,
okay, here's another. And then eventually they start opening up. So little by little, I guess you have like your little ways of
navigating
through that.
I wanted to ask, because I sent you a list of some things that I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. I shared it with you. I don't know if you even looked at it. I don't know.
No.
And because I wanted to talk about, part of it was trauma bonding and why some people find it so hard to let go when it comes to romantic relationships. Knowing, they know deep down, I think people know that they deserve better, but it's hard to let go. And if they're mistreated, if there's abuse, obviously all of that is unacceptable. And everybody in their life probably tells them, get out. And it's easier said than done. Speaking about it from, being on the outside, saying, hey, just get out. But it's never that easy, is it? And so what keeps us like kind of entangled?
Yeah. So trauma bonding is actually a psychological response to abuse. It's this kind of negative attachment that we form with a person that's abusive. And it may seem impossible to get out, but there are so many other factors. So like you said, it's so much easier. Just leave them. Yeah, just get out. But there are so many other factors. There's so many other things that may be tying them, whether it's financially or whether it's abusive. Our self-esteem really takes a hit after a breakup because we might feel, what did I do wrong? How could I have done something different? Or this person I may never find love again. Like, no one's going to love me like they did. They're not going to understand me. An abuser doesn't start off as a person that's abusive. That's almost never the case. There's a charming stage. Oh my God, they understand me. They get me better than anyone else in the world. They really are there for me. You build a structure. They kind of isolate the people from everyone else. So really they are their only contact. And when you are in this attachment, it's like, well, how am I going to get out? He's all I have. She's all I have. Who else is going to love me? I'm unlovable. And then we create all these negative cognitions, all these negative thoughts about what we're not. But in the moment, it's like, well, I can't get out. They pay for this and I'm here. And how am I going to sustain myself? And who's going to be there emotionally for me? It's easy for people to say, just get out. But there are so many other ties.
But I'm thinking because do you, I guess from your experience, and I know you can't, kind of talk about, directly of who you've helped, but do you ever feel like, maybe sometimes, how do I say this? Continue. Switch gears. I'm trying to think.
Okay. When you said an abuser never starts off as being an abuser, do you feel like there's certain red flags or certain hints that pick up? Because it starts off slow. It'll be like, oh, they maybe take you out of your friend circle, or they don't want you to hang out with certain people. Are there certain indicators where that is starting to reflect on them?
Yeah. So usually they have some sort of like explosion, and it's very unlike them. And it's almost like a test to see how you're going to respond. And as people that have been abused, it's very easy for, oh, that was a one-time thing. Oh, that's not going to happen again. They were really apologetic after. That was unlike their character. That's going to change. So we try to go back to that person that we initially fell in love with. We're not going to remember that one time that they blew up. We have so much hope. Or maybe it's just a glimmer of hope, because abuse is also not always abuse. Again, there are moments where they were kind to me and they brought me flowers and they did this and, they texted me to see how I'm doing. And we hold on to those things like, well, it's not all bad.
Yeah, it's not all bad. There's that little bit of goodness in there sprinkled around all that other negative stuff.
Exactly. So red flags, I'm sorry, as far as, just noticing that they are trying to isolate you from other people, kind of want you as their one and only lifeline, blowing up, and then that progressively getting worse, and then seeing how you react. So, it can be difficult to pay attention to, but if you know the right things, the right triggers, then it's like, well, I shouldn't feel like I'm stepping over eggshells when I talk to this person. I don't want a relationship that looks like that.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed this content, please head over to Patreon, where you'll be able to watch the full episode, get exclusive content, and watch all of our episodes at an earlier time.
Yeah, so Coffee Breakup started, being a short little break within your day, whether morning, afternoon, night, for you to get, your information, 30 minutes, nice and easy. But obviously, as we're expanding, more guests, more episodes, longer episodes, we want to make sure that we can put that in a little space for those who really want to enjoy those episodes. So head on over to Patreon, where you can subscribe for a small little fee. It'll help us continue expanding our business and giving you that same content that you guys really want to follow us for. So again, thank you guys so much for everything. We couldn't have done it without you. But again, head on over to Patreon, check us out, see if it kind of tickles your fancy, and
we appreciate your support.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Thank you guys.
Later.
Ciao.